I believe that people come into your life when they're supposed to. They help you with things or they don't, but then you always learn something from it. So just go with the flow. Hey guys, welcome back. So you guys seem to really like the video on how to be single from last week, so I thought I'd do a follow-up video more broadly about just relationships in general, being single, anything that has to do with that. I asked those of you guys who are following me on Instagram what questions you guys had, and I compiled them into 36. I'm gonna try to get through it within like 20-25 minutes, so let's see if I do that. And my voice is kind of nasally and a little raspy, so please bear with me. I don't know. I'm feeling okay. It's just here is not a little congested, and let's just first get started. Most important thing you've learned from being in a long-term relationship. So my first boyfriend, who I was with from junior year of high school till about freshman year of college, he taught me how to respect myself. That was probably one of the most toxic relationships I've been in, but then it was also my first relationship and we're both really young. We're still friends now. We have the same high school friend group. My second boyfriend taught me how to love myself, which is what like propelled me on this journey of like my channel. And then that's from sophomore year of college to maybe like a year after graduating. You said you've been single for 4 years. In that time, have you tried to meet someone or go on dates? I actually haven't. And I was talking to a friend maybe like a year or two ago, and I realized I actually haven't ever been on a date. Like I've dated someone and like we've gone on dates, but I've never like been on a date, like been asked out on a date. And again, like I said in my previous video, it wasn't like I set out to just like be single and, you know, not go on any dates and like not do anything. It just kind of was what happened. I've just been focusing on myself, and by focusing on myself, I wanted to focus on my relationship with my parents, my relationship with my family, my relationship with my friends. I'm talking really fast. Sorry, mom and dad. Mom and dad always watches and they always tell me I'm talking too fast. And my relationship with people and with things that I haven't had a good relation or have like as good of relationship with when I was previously into back-to-back relationship for 7 years, and I was very devoted into the relationships, but not with like everything else. So, do you ever feel envy/loneliness after watching Korean dramas? I actually don't, but I can see why someone would. Because Hollywood and these shows and dramas, they're scripted and they're made in a way to make you feel these things and to make you want these things. But having been in relationships and having seen relationships around me and observing relationships in general, it's very easy. Well, I wouldn't say it's very easy to be in a relationship, but like it's easy to find someone, right? In this day and age, like it's easy to find a warm body to like be with. But to find the right person, right is subjective, right? But to find the right person, like I would rather be with the right person than just be with someone for the sake of being with someone. Have you dealt with loneliness? I definitely have. I was the loneliest I've ever been when I was in college and when I was younger, when I was going through like my darkest times. How do you cope with or avoid that? Don't you miss hugs and feelings that there's somebody sitting next to you watching a movie with? Yes and no. Actually, more no. Really good quote on being alone/lonely is the only time we waste is the time we spent thinking we are alone. From my understanding, and this is going to be from like a very spiritual perspective, if you believe in some sort of a higher power, if you believe in God, if you believe in, you know, the universe looking after you, you're never really lonely. And a lot of times we feel lonely because we kind of do it to ourselves. I'm sure there are people around you. I'm sure there's so many people around you who would love to, if you reach out, and that's like the most important step, I'm sure a lot of people will like grab and embrace you reaching out. All right, so how to overcome and solve problems within a relationship. Communication. Just communication. It's the most important thing. And I also think it helps to know love languages. There's acts of service, gift giving, physical touch, quality time, and words of affirmation. Everyone generally gives and receives love in a different way. So to know what your love language is, and to know what your significant other's love language is, and to know what your friend's love language is, and to know what your mother's love language is, it's very helpful actually. There's also things like Myers-Briggs personality test. Do you want to be married and or have kids? I do want to be married and I do want to have kids. Just curious, what's the ring you wear on your right hand for? So this ring is actually my parents' wedding band, engagement ring. I don't think this is engagement. I think this is wedding band. There's like grooves on it and my really wrinkly fingers. So one quick story about my parents. My mom did not want to get married. My dad also did not want to get married until they met each other and they're like, okay, let's get married. And to me, I think that's one of the most beautiful things because they were both very content with their lives. They're both very content with just being by themselves and possibly for the rest of their lives. But it proves, it helps me see that if you really do just work on yourself and the card is in your hand, the cards are in your future. My brain. Things will happen that are supposed to happen. I really believe that. And my parents are the cutest things in the world. They're so sweet. I miss them. They're both in Taiwan right now and I'm in New York like, Mom, Dad, love me. Okay. Do you have any tips for staying true to yourself and your values in a relationship? How do I value myself more than I value my relationships? I think at the core of it is just you need to first know what you value so that you can stay true to your values. Because if you're in a relationship and you start thinking about what you value, then it's really hard to really figure out what that is because you're clouded by being in a relationship. Which is why I think it's helpful to spend time, regardless if you're in a relationship or not, to figure out what really, really matters to you, what's the most important to you, what are the most important things, what are your non-negotiables, what are things that you definitely will not do, what are lines that you will not cross. And of course, all of these things are subjective. All of these things are going to vary from person to person, and whatever my non-negotiables are going to be very different from yours. But yeah, I think at the core of everything, it's how do I value myself more than I value my relationship? If you take good care of yourself, you'll be able to take a much better care of someone else. I read a quote on Instagram a few days ago that those who don't know how to love is because they don't love themselves. Something like that. You spend your days going through like, oh my God, why doesn't this person care about me? Why doesn't they love me in this way? But it's like, well, like maybe they don't know how to. Maybe it's not that they don't want to, it's they really don't know how to. Thoughts on being friends with an ex, is it wise to stay friends with exes in the long run? As with everything with relationships, it's very personal, right? Like, you know yourself best. For me, I think it's very possible to be friends with your exes, but I also feel like it depends on the person. It depends on the ex, or it depends on the person that you're with. Favorite thing about being single? Having time for myself to just do all the things that I want in the comfort of my own bubble. Not having to think about what somebody else wants for now. But yeah, like I don't want to be like this forever, but for now it's nice. What does your ideal relationship look like? I think ideal relationship would be one in which they're fully supporting me in everything that I do. I'm fully supporting them in everything I do. They make me feel calm and grounded and secure instead of like butterflies and passion and all of that stuff. Because I've realized for me, if I do have butterflies, if I do get moved in that way, it's usually because of something in here, like some sort of an attachment that I have for the relationship to be a certain way, or it's a projection of like what I would want him or what I want the relationship to be like. So I want to be with someone, yeah, I think ideal situation, you're supporting each other in everything that you do, and I think that's the most important thing, and we laugh a lot together. I actually haven't thought about this, but I know that when I meet the person, I'll know. When do you know that you are no longer a mediocre company, but a great company? This is such a cute question. A follow-up from last week's video. So it's like two mediocre companies does not come together to make a great company. It's from the book Good to Great. It's a business book. And how do you know when you're no longer a mediocre company? You can feel it. I think you can definitely feel it. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take a lot of time. It took like a solid 4 years for me to feel like, I think I'm between good and great. But yeah, I think it's, you'll know. People around you will tell you, you will tell yourself. It's just the universe will give you signs to let you know that you are no longer mediocre. How do you deal with relatives respectfully that ask you about being single at your current age? So I feel like there's many ways I can respond to this question, but the one that I'm gonna go with is that to keep in mind that when people ask you, especially relatives, it's generally out of a place of love because they care about you and maybe they don't know what else to talk to you about. So they're like, oh, relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, like, how's it going? Why are you single? For the most part, I know some aren't like that, but I just, giving them the benefit of the doubt. With that in mind, just be like, I'm working on myself, or like, I'm focusing on, something else for now, but like, I definitely want that, and like, I'm open to looking, or I am looking. I don't know. I feel like if you're just honest with people, for the most part, it'll be received pretty well, but not everyone is rational, and not everyone is, level-headed, so I also understand that sometimes you just need to just nod. Like, yes. Are you single still? Yes. Why are you single? Yes. Just have fun with it. Don't take life too seriously. Do you believe everyone has a soulmate? Soulmate. I actually do. I don't know if soulmate's the right word, but in traditional Chinese stories, folklore, beliefs, it is believed that when you're born, there's a red string attaching you to your person. And if you believe in things like past lives, sometimes, in Chinese culture, it's believed that it's passed on from previous lives, or like whoever you're with, it has to do with like karmic relationships. Is closure ever possible? I believe it is possible. I got closure from my last relationship because we still stayed in touch, and we would catch up like once every couple months, once every half a year, and every time we catch up, we'd catch up with how we're doing in our lives, what we're doing with work and all that, feelings, everything. And then, relationship stuff would get brought up, and then I'd be able to, it's usually me talking, I'd be able to talk about my feelings. He would just be like, okay, and then we good. Do you have a preference for meeting your future person, online dating, blind date, naturally? So I'm not personally the biggest fan of online dating. I know it's a thing that works, and I know it's a thing that many people have been happily coupled up / in a relationship because of, but I think it'll probably be through like introduction, like mutual friends introductions, or like meeting on, I don't know. Naturally, I guess, would be the answer. Is it important to you to date inside your race? How do you feel about interracial relationships? Personally, I would like to marry someone who's Taiwanese or Chinese, because I have fostered like such a beautiful relationship with my parents and with my family. I mean, I always had a good relationship with them, but it's like, because these past 4 years I've just been spending on like them, and then me, and then them, and then me, and then them, I want my significant other to be able to share in the same culture, share in the same inside jokes, share in like how goofy and adorable my parents are. So preferably, but then I don't know who my red string is attached to, so I'm not going to be attached to it. And how do you feel about interracial relationships? Do you? My last boyfriend was white, so yeah. I never feel like anyone that is worth my time. Is this normal or just an excuse? I feel like this sometimes too. When I'm like very emo Rowena, I'm just like, ugh, I don't want anything to do with the world. I don't want anything to do with anyone. Is this normal or just an excuse? I think because I go through this so often, I think it's normal, and whether it is an excuse or not. If you think you're using it as an excuse to not meet people, then it probably is. But if you're thinking it's an excuse because it's something that's not normal, then you're probably doing fine. Is it worth getting together with someone when you know there's going to be an expiration date? And a similar question is, should you date someone you don't plan to marry? I mean, it's up to you, dude. I feel like it's good to meet people, get out there and meet different types of people before you get married. Should you actually do it? Should you date someone you don't plan to marry? That's up to you. Some people can thrive personally while they're in a relationship, and some people thrive personally when they're single. So I think it all goes back to, you know yourself best. So if you believe being in this relationship will help you get to where you need to be, or sometimes it doesn't even need to, right? Like sometimes I believe that people come into your life when they're supposed to. They help you with things or they don't, but then you always learn something from it. So just go with the flow. How do you deal with wanting to talk to your ex because he was your best friend, but it's toxic? He was your best friend, was for a reason, right? Like you guys broke up for a reason. So if you want to talk to him, it's like, what do you want to talk to him about? What is it that you miss about him? Like, why him? Like, why do you need to talk to him? Is it because he makes you feel a certain way? Is it because of this thing that came up and he's usually the person you go to talk to about these things? And if it's the latter, then talk to someone else you trust about this. It could be a friend, it could be your parents, it could be whoever. Your person, like I said in the previous video, your person doesn't need to be your significant other. Maybe it is comfortable, maybe he does know you better than more people, but I realized, and I learned this towards the end of my last relationship, that yeah, he knows me the best, because he's the only person I've let into my life. So if I let other people into my life more, then they can also know me better. I think there's just really weirds happening with the lighting, so put the blinds down. Might be a little darker, but please bear with me. How to trust the one you're with when you've been hurt a lot before. The way that I'm gonna approach this is, I think the sooner we accept the fact that people are gonna hurt us, things are gonna hurt us, life is gonna hurt us in some way, shape, or form, the sooner we'll be able to find inner peace and to be able to let go of these things that have happened in the past, or like find some sort of like a solution within yourself to make peace with it and to let go of these things and to no longer let it hurt you as much as it did. The Buddha is saying that to be human means to suffer, so there's gonna be forms of suffering in our life. It could be from any source, right? But the degree to which we allow something to affect us, that's really up to us. And if we want to make peace with our past, we will be able to find a way. Yeah, I think it's also to know that it's not fair for the person you're with now for you to carry baggage from the past. But that being said, if the person you're with is understanding and very loving, they'll help you overcome that. So yeah. What is love? I never get the big movie feelings. I wonder if feeling good with my significant other is all I'll ever get. So to me, I think the way that I'm going to define love right now, it's going to be like, what? But I feel like it's a combination of compassion, kindness, benevolence, selflessness, this like otherworldly type of love that isn't the love that we've grown up knowing. Because I think Hollywood has done a really good job to impose what love should be like, but it's so unrealistic. You're not going to find someone like that. I mean, you might, but will the relationship last? I really do feel like love for me now, the way that I see it, is this compassionate, kind, selfless kind of, this like, I appreciate you, I respect you, and I want to be with you in any capacity, whether it's platonic or not. How did you come to feeling fulfilled on your own when society is telling us we need a partner? I think I've done a lot of things that society tells us we should do, and then I'll do it, and then I find myself not happy. So now I'm just doing whatever I want to do. And I think it's like we all have to kind of go through that. Maybe what society is telling you to do is what you want to do. And if you keep doing that, then like that is your path, right? But if society is telling you to do one thing and you're not happy with it, then do what you want to do. If you can own it, and if you're doing it with the right reasons and with the right intentions and with your head relatively straight on, your head and your body and your shoulders, then you should be okay. I think it really, depends on what your end goal is. And I think it all comes down to knowing yourself well enough to know what it is that you want and what it is that you're working towards. I is giving me mixed signals. We get along great, but he has a girlfriend. I'm backing off, but he's on my mind. Yeah, I think it really comes down to sheer willpower and values at this point. What do you think is the right thing to do? And then doing it and having enough willpower to do what you believe is the right thing to do, even though that might mean you might not be with him. It's tough. I think doing the right thing is always the right thing to do. And the right thing is like doing what you do, will you be able to sleep well at night? And if you can, doing what you did, then. But if you cannot, then don't do it. Do you believe that it is possible to be in love in high school? I definitely believe it's possible to be in love when you're in elementary school. What am I saying? Why can't I talk? You can be in love at any stage in your life, no matter how old you are. I think the older you get, the definition of love changes for sure, but you can be in love whenever you are, wherever you are. How do you know if you have truly moved on? I knew I moved on when I could look at my ex, and then I would see him as I would see my guy best friends. That was like my goal. I'm able to love my guy best friends because I just love them as people, love them as a human. And I don't have any expectations for them because they're just my friend. Why would I have expectations for my friends, right? With my ex, I had like so many expectations for him because he was my boyfriend and my boyfriend had to be perfect. So yeah, now that I say it, it sounds so silly. But yeah, I knew the moment I could see my ex as any one of my other guy best friends, it was like, we good. And then you should know. I think you know deep down if you really moved on or if you're just saying you moved on but you didn't. And it takes time. It took me like 3 years. How to be happy in a relationship and not compare it to any past relationships. I think it's hard. You're going to compare it to past relationships for sure, but it's to what extent you're comparing and like what are you comparing? Like, are you nitpicking? Or if it's something just like in here of being aware of like, oh, my ex used to do this for me. That was very sweet. How come this person isn't doing it now? And you could communicate that in a very calm, thing without having to bring up your ex. Communication really is key to everything that has to do with relationships, regardless if it's with your parents, with your mom, with I was gonna say your cat, sure, with like your friends, with anyone. So yeah, I think the main thing I'd ask myself is, what is it about my past relationship that I'm holding on to? Should I even be holding on to it? Are they good qualities or traits or memories or things that I should be holding on to? And if it's yes, then how can you communicate that with your current person and share like, hey, I value this, or like, hey, I've learned that I need, like you're just communicating your needs and seeing what your partner or what your person, how they respond. And if you approach it from like a, hey, it would be so nice if you can this, then they'll be like, okay, I'll do that. But if you're like, how come my ex did this and how come you're not, then they're gonna be like, oh, why do I care? Why am I gonna listen to you? Why are you bringing up your ex? Right? All right. How to choose between relationship and career. So I think in the ideal situation, you won't have to choose either, because you can be in a relationship while you have a career, right? Like in the ideal situation, you would have created that life for yourself where you will be able to do that. But if we need to pick one or the other, for me personally, if I had to choose between relationship / starting a family or my career, I would probably choose starting a family and being in a relationship. It's like my mom and dad. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Like my mom and dad my mom's very, very, very independent. I get it from my mother for sure. But she was willing to give up that part of her life to raise these and my brother, which I am eternally grateful for, because I would not be the person I am today without mom and dad sacrificing what they did. So I would want to do that for my child. What can you do to deal with the breakup initially, like the first week or two? Just let yourself feel, wallow, mope, like cry, do all the things you need to do. Don't be afraid of doing it, and like hang out with your friends, cry to your friends, eat ice cream, eat what you want to eat. Don't go out for a week or two and then you put on your pants and you be a big girl, because everything is temporary. But yeah, I feel like giving yourself permission to feel, giving yourself permission to be, and just to process everything or not. You can just not think about anything for 2 weeks and just like be. I think that's very important. The idea of giving yourself permission is something that never crossed my mind when I was younger. I just felt like I need to be this and I can only be this. But it's like, no, you can't be one thing all the time. So do the things you need to do and then stand up and move forward if that's what you want to do. How to let go of someone you love but shouldn't, because it's unrequited, so it's not returned, but you both still care about each other. I think this is the hardest. This is kind of the situation with my ex. We both loved each other a lot. We both wanted to be good together, but our circumstances and just like we both were just unhappy. I wasn't happy with who I am, and I projected that onto the relationship. And then, I don't know, when you're in your early 20s, you're still figuring yourself out, you're still figuring your life out, you're still figuring out who you are and who you want to be. And so I think it's one of the hardest things to let go of. I even told my ex that, like, dude, breaking up with you was harder than losing my brother, because with my brother, it's like, if someone is gone, you can't bring them back. But with my ex, it's like, what if? And they're still there. And it's like, I know I can just reach out to you, and I know I can just text you, I know I can just call you, but I'm not going to. And that wanting to but not, it can really mess with you. So how to let go of someone you love, but you still both care about each other. You do it very gracefully. You do it with honor. Like, you just gotta do what you gotta do. If you know you can't, not you can't, if you know you shouldn't be in that relationship, then like, that's it. You just have to be strong. You just have to know why you broke up, and I think you know why. Yeah. How do you lower expectations or get rid of an ideal person that you've created is waiting for the one realistic? I don't think you have to lower your expectations. Well, it depends. What are your expectations to begin with? I don't think it's wrong to have high expectations, but I also think you need to have realistic expectations. It can't be like I said in the previous video, it can't be this like perfect ideal Build-A-Boy kit where you like go into a factory and you check all these things that like he needs to look like this, he needs to be this tall, and he also needs to like blah blah blah. But then if you're just like, I put in the time, I got to know who I am, I have an idea of this is the type of person I want to be with, and if that is high expectations, then like, so be it. Would you rather go actively look for a boyfriend or girlfriend, or just wait and trust destiny and God? I think you guys know my answer. I said this in my previous video. If you believe in destiny, if you believe in, you know, a higher power taking care of you and having the perfect path planned out for you, then my ears are so stuffy. Then yes, that is what I believe in. I'm at a point in my life right now where I'm just like, whatever happens is gonna happen. I'm gonna work hard to do the things I need to do, but I'm not gonna be attached to finding a person by this time. I'm just gonna focus on myself, focus on doing what's most important, and focus on having faith and believing and trusting the universe that my life is beautifully arranged, it's beautifully planned out, and things will happen when they're supposed to happen. And if they're not supposed to happen, then there's reasonings behind that although I might not know right now, in the future, it'll all be clear. So to end this video, yeah, I think like being single for an extended period of time, or just being single in general, can be a very lonely thing. But loneliness is something that you probably like, I don't know if it's fair to say this, but I think loneliness is like you are doing it to yourself. It's a very like mentally straining thing, like anxiety, maybe even depression. For my case, at least, it was all very self-inflicted. And when I realized that, and when I started changing it and changing my mindsets, changing my mentality, and changing my perspective on how I saw myself and the things around me and the things that are happening in my life, it really helped me break through, and it really helped me be okay with myself, to accept myself, to find that inner peace. This was done mostly through knowing that like there's some greater forces out there that's looking after me, so that I don't need to freak out as much as I used to, and still do sometimes now, about the things that I freak out about. So with all of that, hugs all around. Okay, yeah, the sun is literally like shining so bright, but yeah, I hope you guys like this video. See you guys next week. Goodbye. Let me know if you want me to do more of these videos. Okay, bye.